Thousands of women are made redundant or forced out of their roles every year when they're pregnant or on maternity leave. Recent reports have shown that problems are getting worse, not better. In this video, I'm going to look at what can you do if your rights have been breached. We're going to look at tips for negotiating a settlement agreement. Then I'm going to go into look a little bit about employment law, what is discrimination, and can your employer in fact make you redundant when you're pregnant or on maternity leave. So topic 1, firstly looking at what can you do if your rights have been breached. If you've been discriminated against, then there are several things that you can do about it. You could raise a grievance with your employer, you could ultimately go to an employment tribunal, but first you might want to try negotiating a settlement agreement so you don't have to go through either of these processes. Many women don't raise any complaints about the way that they're treated when they're on maternity leave, often because either they don't have the time or the energy, or they just feel that nothing would be done about it. But if this is your situation, I would strongly encourage you to at least try and have a without prejudice conversation with your employer to try and negotiate some kind of settlement if you do decide you want to leave your job. The last thing your employer wants is for it to be held that they have discriminated against a woman who is pregnant or a new mother. This not only looks bad to the public generally, but also to their customers, to their clients, and to the rest of their workforce. The reason there aren't very many claims which get to employment tribunals is because employers almost always agree to settle. So here are my tips for negotiating a settlement agreement with your employer. Firstly, do you have any documentary evidence? Did you get an email from HR saying that your job has been allocated to somebody else? If so, keep a copy of that email. Next, emphasise to your employer the importance of what's happened and the impact that it's had on you. With discrimination claims, you claim injury to feelings, not just for your loss of earnings. So the worse the impact is on you, the more that you can claim in compensation. Next, say to your employer that you will raise a grievance. This not only creates a paper trail, but it also is the evidence that your employer has discriminated against you and that you've put this forward. If your employer does then treat you badly because you've raised a complaint about discrimination, you can say that you've been victimised. Certainly if your employer doesn't agree to settle with you, you should certainly raise a grievance. Is there an enhanced rate of maternity pay that would be repayable if you don't go back to work after a certain period? If so, if you agree a settlement agreement, make sure it says that this sum won't be repayable. It depends on the circumstances, but you can argue that your notice pay should be paid at your full rate of pay, even if you're still receiving SMP or no pay at all. And also you're entitled to receive any statutory maternity pay that has not yet been paid. Lastly, be willing to compromise. You should aim high, but in order to get a deal done, you may have to compromise to get that settlement agreement signed. So topic 2, let's have a little bit of a look at employment law, just so you have those tools at your fingertips when you're negotiating your settlement agreement. It's important to know a little bit of law. So firstly, what is discrimination? It's unlawful to treat a woman unfavourably because she's pregnant or because she's taken maternity leave. And this protection starts at the beginning of your pregnancy when your employer knows that you're pregnant, right through to the end of your maternity leave. So what is unfavourable treatment? So it could be being dismissed because you're pregnant or on maternity leave. It could be your employer assuming that after you've had a baby, you're less interested in work and therefore they give you less interesting work or less important work. And lastly, it could be excluding you from business trips or things like that just because you're pregnant. Be aware that you do need to take action quickly though. There are very short time limits in employment law. There's only 3 months less 1 day from the date of the act that you're complaining of to take any action. And this is even if you're on maternity leave. So you do need to think about these things quite quickly. And lastly, topic 3, is your employer actually allowed to make you redundant? After your maternity leave, you're generally allowed to come back to the same role you had before, but it is possible for your employer to make you redundant if they follow the correct procedures. Importantly, when you're on maternity leave, if your role is going to be made redundant, you have special protection, which means that you have to be offered any suitable alternative vacancy in front of anybody else without any kind of competitive interview. If your employer doesn't do this, then your dismissal may be automatically unfair, and it could also be maternity discrimination. Well, I hope you found this video useful. If you would like any further information, please have a look around our website. There's loads of information on there. Also, all the contact details of our lawyers are available. Please do get in touch for a free consultation.